Hey everyone, I got a very exciting show for you today. One of your favorite videos from the last couple of weeks was our interview with Bryan Lebo from Las Vegas. He went through the last crash. He shared with us great detail about last time. We already started about what to look at this time. And he reached out to me in the last couple of days and goes, you know what, we're starting to get some data, Michael. I think we should talk. He set up some time on a Saturday afternoon for us. So let's welcome Bryan back to the show. How you doing, man?
What's up, guys? How are you? Thank you so much for watching.
Yeah, it was great. Real quick, Bryan, just in case somebody missed the last video, who you are, what you do, and please plug your YouTube channel because that's how I
Sure.
found you as well.
So Bryan Lebo, I've been in Las Vegas for 30 years. I've been in real estate for about 16 years. I've got an extensive amount of residential experience. So aside from normal residential real estate, during the bust in 2008 to 2014-ish, I represented 8 banks and asset management companies. I flipped 100+ homes. I was flipping before there was television shows about it, when there was 10 of us sitting in the lobby of Nevada Legal News, which is the courthouse that everyone refers to.
Yeah.
So I've worked with luxury home builders, designing, developing multi-million-dollar homes. So I've got a pretty wide array of experience on a vast amount of topics. But you were kind enough to have me on the show last time. I appreciate all your fans. Thank you for your support. You can reach me directly. My website is lebogroup.com. My phone number, contact information is on there. You can also subscribe, please, on my YouTube channel, which is Lebo Group. And I do monthly update videos. So I handle all of the analytics that are currently facing the market. And then I tend to give a commentary at the end explaining what these numbers mean. Because sometimes just because a number exists, is there actual basis and a foundation behind it. Sometimes a number is just a number, which is kind of what we're facing right now, where the numbers aren't indicative of the current market, they're indicative of 6 weeks behind. So it's important to understand not just what the numbers are, but what the numbers truly represent. So I do monthly update videos, and then as we were discussing prior to filming, I've got a huge story that hasn't even been, I searched the entire web and I couldn't find any mention of it, but I'm gonna, as soon as we're done here, I'm gonna shoot a video on my channel, and I guarantee you it's a pretty big story. Has to do with illegal servicing tactics, and I guarantee you probably by Tuesday it'll be national news, but hopefully I'll be the one to break it. So please subscribe to my channel. Even if you don't want to commit to that level, you know, check it out this evening. The video should be up, and if you like it, subscribe.
I will have my popcorn ready. We've both been in this business a long time and have seen servicers do interesting things over the years. So I'm gonna get my popcorn and see what you have for us. That's gonna be a lot of fun. So real quick, one of the takeaways I took from our conversation, because one of the reasons I reach out to experts such as yourself is, frankly, I'm trying to learn. And I believe Vegas is such a critical market for others, including myself, to pay attention to. One of the big takeaways from our last call, or our first call, was watch lot pricing, right? Are builders yet reducing or negotiating on lot prices? And maybe it's still too soon, but given that was one of my big aha moments, the first thing to break, I just wanted to ask before we get into other things, have you seen any advertising or even discussion of lot prices coming down?
No, I haven't seen. So, I mean, when things get really dicey, you tend to start getting mass emails from builders where they go, oh, you know, we're slashing. You know, I've seen slash prices, but that's for standing inventory, which is pretty common practice. I think we're still a while away before we're going to see advertising of reduced lot premiums, et cetera. You know, I'm sure we'll get into this topic a little bit more, but as we discussed last time, you know, the carnage isn't going to happen until down the road. You know, what we're seeing right now is what I said was going to happen 2 months ago, which is once we come out of quarantine, you're going to see like a little artificial bump, because there's always going to be naysayers and there's always going to be people who just think everything's going to be fine. And we've got a 2-month backlog of those people who thought everything is going to be fine. So now they're coming out. So you're seeing on a national level, I think, an artificial bump. Okay. You know, like we've discussed, and I've sent you articles, right now, across the country, you know, there's the country and then there's wherever you are. And real estate
Right.
is always regional. So you kind of have to take things with a grain of salt. Just because Kansas is operating in one direction doesn't mean that your neighborhood specifically is operating on the same wavelength.
Mhm.
And that's kind of what we're dealing with in Las Vegas, where our situation is very different than the rest of the country. Therefore, we are going to have a different experience than, say,
Mhm.
Kansas or Texas.
Yeah. Yeah. And this again is why I reached out to you, because I think, and I told you this the first time we talked on the phone before you knew who I was. I think Vegas is on the tip of the spear. It's going to be the first to feel it and the first out of it. And we're kind of in it now, right? You sent me some market data, but you're right. Folks, when you hear national numbers and you hear Redfin or Zillow CEO say 41% of solds have multiple offers, or you hear about days on market falling, or you hear about 8% price increase, you need to realize that that's national. It is also artificial, given the supply has been reduced. We already had record supply shrinkage, and now we just took 30% off the market. So it
Right.
doesn't take a lot of, pent up demand to goose that number. So you and I agree. You got to know the market. I am very keen to know about Vegas. So let's talk about Vegas, right? I
Yeah.
think since our last time, we've learned a couple of things, right? We've got the first cut of local unemployment, which is not the national 15.7. It's a little bit worse than
Right.
that.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, like you said, and you also have to understand that truly understanding the unemployment levels is somewhat of an unknown.
Hmm.
I mean, it's still an unknown figure. So I think everyone agrees universally that the true unemployment levels are much higher than the reported levels. Also, since a lot of people, we had a discussion yesterday, I had a couple people over, and some people still haven't been able to get through to file their unemployment.
Oh my
So
gosh.
those levels are still unreported.
Yeah.
So, like we just discussed, I mean, nationally, we're looking at 15%, Las Vegas, 28%. So, I mean, we're literally double the national level.
Yeah.
And then we also understand that that's not necessarily indicative of the true number.
Right.
And that's the worst unemployment level since history. I
Yeah.
mean, it goes back to 1976 and nothing even comes close to that level. So obviously we have different problems in the rest of the country, or at least a more intense level of problems.
Yeah. And again, it's coming first, right? So I agree. 28% is like the minimum number. It only gets worse from there, right? Reality is above
Right.
that. We can argue, is it 31? Is it 36? Is it, who cares? It's no better than 28%, which is a
Right.
horrible number, right? The Great Depression was the peak of national unemployment, and that was 25%. So, I mean,
Right.
just put that in context, right?
Right.
1 in 4 folks. It's horrible. The other thing we have learned is there's three big metros that have serious delinquencies. We're talking significant, like Miami, Vegas, and New York City. That was something else we found. Again, probably not to be, it's not unexpected, but just the size inside of 8 weeks, 10 weeks is shocking. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, and when you look at it, like, okay, New York, understandable. I mean, New York is a travel destination, but more realistically, they just got devastated
Yeah.
by the epidemic. So it's understandable that they would be in that, top three.
Mhm.
Miami, of course, is a tourist destination. So you understand that. And then, of course, Vegas is number one tourist destination,
Yeah.
29% of our workforce. So New York's issues are very different than our issues. Their fundamentals might be okay once they get past the epidemic part of it, whereas Las Vegas falls into a very different category. We just announced that June 4th that the casinos are going to be opening up. Now, the hotels have already announced when they're opening, but a hotel isn't necessarily the same thing as a casino.
True.
So the casinos are going to be opening June 4th. And so this is going to be really interesting. I sent you an email. It was a good article in the Las Vegas Review Journal where they interview Steve Wynn.
Hmm.
And if you don't know who Steve Wynn is, look him up. But I mean, he's
Yeah.
like the guru of
You're not
Vegas.
paying attention if you don't know who Steve Wynn is.
Yeah, Steve Wynn, he created the Mirage. Obviously, his name is on the Wynn Hotel. He's removed from the company at this junction, but no one understands Vegas, understands things better than Steve Wynn. And he even came out and said, and it was very rational, that we don't know where we stand until we get to like mid-June.
Yeah.
Let's see how this opening goes. Let's see what the response is. And I hear things, but I'm curious. You know,
Yeah.
I had a friend that was driving out of Vegas and said that there was just ridiculous traffic on the 15 coming to Vegas.
Huh.
And my first response is like, who the hell's coming to Vegas? Again, I know it's Memorial Day weekend, but we don't have bars open. We don't have nightclubs. We don't have pools. What are you coming to Vegas for? And where are you even
Yeah.
staying? So again, you know, as far as how things go, we kind of have to wait and see approach because, you know, the gaming standpoint is very disrupted. I mean,
Sure.
if you've seen that viral picture of the blackjack tables, it doesn't look like a very good experience.
Yeah.
And all the nightclub operators said it's kind of a wrap for this year. So we have to see how these openings go. And of course, predicated on how these openings go, that's going to dictate the labor force. If the
Exactly.
openings are very mild, if things don't go well, I mean, and this is Memorial Day weekend. And part of me even says this is even overinflated because all of California has been on lockdown. People are dying to get out of
Yeah.
town. Hell, let's go to Vegas and it's cheap. So even if we have a good opening, it doesn't necessarily mean that this is going to endure. In my area, you know, it's a more affluent area, so you do have people who do have more cash reserves, who have the ability to spend more money, less paycheck to paycheck. But going out, I mean, it's kind of crazy right now. I mean, the other day I drove by, I went to Target, and there was 50 people in line to go to Ross. There was a line of like 70 people outside of Nordstrom to get into Nordstrom. I mean, people are
Wow.
literally just dying to give their money away. Restaurants are completely packed. So,
Huh.
like I've said before, I'm not getting too high and I'm not getting too low. Again, you've got people don't always act rationally. I mean, look at toilet paper and
Yeah.
I'll
I
explain human
remember.
nature to you. So, just because things happen doesn't mean that they're enduring.
Yeah.
So, don't get too high, don't get too low. And again, we've discussed the government has artificially propped things up. So,
Yeah.
you know, if you're a husband and wife that were employed, you're making $8,000 a month. That should give you some discretionary income. Smart people would save the money, but Americans aren't typically the best savers in the world.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of what's happening is just an overreaction to being quarantined for a while. Let's see how things are 3 weeks from now, a month from now. Are people still going out and dropping $100 at dinner, $100 at happy hour?
Right.
That remains to be seen, and I'm not reading too much into that quite specifically.
Yeah, there's so much stuff we have to watch because, you know, also I've been reading a lot about forbearance, right? Las Vegas is again high on that list. But as you know, there's also delinquencies, right? There are people that are not FHA backed or government supported loans. That has jumped by a record number. I don't have Vegas breakdown, but it went up 1.6 million people month to month, which was about a 40% jump. So you take 3.6 million on top of the 4.7, you're at whatever that is, 8.3 million people late, right? Whether you're in forbearance or not. We are quickly getting to a point. The peak that I remember in the 07, 08 crash was 15% of
Okay.
mortgages because in that crisis, as we talked last time, strategic default became a buzzword,
Right.
right? Because that's how you go.
Vegas. I mean, damn near everyone I knew let something go in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
I mean, even for people who had moral objections to the concept of defaulting, I mean, you got to a point where you're the only one on your block. You're the only one of your friends who hasn't stopped paying.
Yeah.
It historically, it's a shameful thing to not pay your mortgage.
Right.
But you have to understand, again, like I said, you know, real estate is regional. So what you experience in Texas, you experience in Kansas, you experience in South Carolina, that's another universe compared to what we dealt with, what Phoenix dealt with, and what Miami dealt with.
Yeah.
And you know, you got to think when you paid $700,000 for your house, and your neighbor across the street just short sold his house for $350,000. You kind of look at that and go, "Oh man, I mean, even if I let my house go and I can't buy it for 4 years, I can buy it back for 400,000."
Yeah.
And when everyone started doing it, people just started feeling foolish for being the only one still paying. So strategic default was just massive,
Yeah.
massive.
It was and this is why I'm looking at Vegas, because clearly this time is different from the government response, right? The government is coming in
Right.
at least through the end of July saying, we're going to make most people whole, right? The
Right.
4,000 bucks or 8,000. If you're, most people can limp through from whenever furloughed or laid off to the end of July. It will be very, very interesting if that gets extended, right? If,
Well, I believe that they did. Well, in the second part of the, you know, for lack of a better term, incentive package that Congress is working on, they're already
stimulus.
discussing.
Yep.
Yeah, this stimulus package is going to extend unemployment benefits throughout the rest of the year. So again, that's going to be huge, but at some point in time,
Yeah.
that has to go away.
Yeah.
It just
Yeah.
has to.
As of right now, and again, I read that every day because again, that I mean, one of the reasons my May collections were so good was because of that stimulus. There's no question, right?
Right.
So there's, I mean, I'm interested. Right now, the House, again, Nancy Pelosi, I believe, is the speaker, has passed the House has passed a $3 trillion stimulus bill, which includes extending the 600 through the end of the year. The Senate, Mitch McConnell, has basically said, F you, we're not doing that, blah, blah, blah. So there'll be some give and take. I
Right.
believe, one stupid guy's opinion on YouTube, they're going to have to extend the 600 because they do not want to have unemployed at record highs, food lines into an
Right.
election. If you want
Well, I
to,
think continue.
yeah,
I was gonna say, I think you go for it.
So I was just going to say the current executive branch is only in his first term. Most people want both terms, so he's not going to want bread lines because he didn't
Right.
pass the $600 thing. So he is motivated to extend that. The Republicans and Mitch McConnell just need to step up and do it.
Well, I think the issue with the Senate was just that there's a lot of pork
Oh.
that the House put on there. So I think now it's just getting down to these line item vetoes and trying to.
Yeah.
I think everyone universally agrees with extending the unemployment. It's
So,
just that there were some articles in there regarding,
yes,
rent forgiveness. Some of those policies were a bit too liberal for the Senate. And
totally
so
agree.
I'm sure they'll figure it out. And I'm pretty sure that unemployment will get extended. It's just a question of what other stuff gets
Yes,
thrown in.
totally
Yeah.
agree. Yeah, because
But,
again, let's just assume wave a magic wand, it's through the end of the year, right? So that's
yeah.
7 months from now.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
We're going to have everybody in forbearance. So what does that mean? Or not everybody, lots of people in forbearance. That means your income statement, your expense line's a couple $1,000s light every month.
Right.
And oh, by the way, your revenue line's about even.
Right.
Bank that money, right? Or you go sign up at
Yeah.
Ross or line up at Ross and Nordstrom's and spend it like drunken sailors. It's just going to be interesting. They're just attacking the problem so differently, but there has to be unintended consequences whenever that turns off.
I mean, at this junction, because we have the Band-Aid on unemployment, I think the only way that I can see at least Vegas coming
Yes.
out of this relatively unscathed is if there's some legislation passed somehow, some way that replicates what HUD did for FHA loans, meaning all these people with forbearances, if the government is willing to somehow stimulate servicers in order to take all these forbearances and then allow services to bundle that delinquent payment into effectively like a second mortgage
Right.
that sits on the back end. So for your viewers, they announced a few weeks ago, if you have an FHA loan, you can actually go 12 months on a forbearance. And then at the end of 12 months, what they're going to do is it'll be 0% interest. They'll take your loan, basically a piggyback. So think of it as a second mortgage. However, when you have a second mortgage, you actually have to pay on that monthly, just like your first mortgage.
Mm-hmm.
What this will do is this will be a second mortgage at 0% interest, and you don't have to start making those payments until the first mortgage is paid off.
Yeah.
So this is the dream that everyone was asking for, and the government has that ability. The government doesn't necessarily have that level of autonomy when you're talking about mortgages that have been bundled and securitized on Wall Street.
Yeah.
So the question is going to be, can the government intervene with these servicers and say, hey, servicers, go ahead and create this second mortgage, and the government will go ahead and cover the interest or something. If that happens, I mean, you're throwing a Hail Mary right now.
Yeah.
But if that happens, Vegas might come out of this relatively unscathed because other than unemployment, our principles were actually pretty good. There's no getting around unemployment. But again, just like anything, it's just a matter of time.
Yeah.
We got crushed in 2008, and tourism came back a few years later. We don't know how long it's going to take this time, but if
Mhm.
you can help us for a few years, then we might be okay.
Yeah.
But we'll have to see.
Yeah. Again, I'm really going to be watching Vegas because, like you said, I think the government-backed loans, first-time homeowners, all of that, pretty much unscathed because they've done the magic thing, which we hope for, right? You can have 12
Right.
months free, expenses down. We're going to help you with unemployment. And oh, by the way, there's really no financial downfall. You don't got to pay it on the 13-month. You don't have to, have a more expensive payment. They're just going to stick it on a second. If you refi or sell it, then they get paid, which
Right.
totally fair, right? That's
Yeah.
fair. But there's jumbo loans, which don't qualify.
Right.
There's non-FHA. I mean, you have any idea if the pie is 100%, what percent of homes have an FHA government-backed loan? Is it like 30%,
I
40%?
want to say FHA was 15 to 20%.
Okay.
Because last time I think I did the research, like jumbo loans were 7 to 8%. FHA I think was 15 to 20.
Okay.
Second homes were I think 20% roughly, and investment homes were like 20 to 25%.
Yeah. So let's just round numbers. So basically, 20% of the homes are covered in Vegas today by this existing tweak to forbearance. That's still a lot of homes that could potentially be at risk.
I mean, that's huge. I mean, that's
Yeah.
that's a huge number. And I mean, this is what I've been alluding to the entire time. I mean, sure, you're going to have a percentage of people on forbearance that are tucking the money away, just in case. Let's see what happens. And when that bill comes due, they go, all right, let me dig into my back pocket. I
Right.
saved all that money. Here you go. Let's square up. But I think the vast majority of people are going to be very surprised by that phone call in October when your servicer calls and says, hey, you owe us $9,000, you owe us $20,000,
Yeah.
you want to write us a check. So again, even if unemployment is being boosted, again, unemployment is only going to last until January 1st, right?
Yep.
I mean,
Agreed.
I think we can kind of agree on that one.
Totally
So
agree.
by the time you realize how screwed you are by your forbearance, that's October 10th, 15th.
Yeah.
You only have a month and a half left of that unemployment. So to me, that's just a big issue, because I don't really think people are going to be saving their unemployment income.
Yeah.
Again, like I said, looking at all these people at Ross, all these people at Nordstrom,
Yeah.
literally just dying to spend money at retail.
Yeah.
Is it really the time to be doing that? It's your money, not mine.
Yeah, it's amazing, right? Yeah, it's amazing. And then the other thing that I've seen that I don't know if you've looked at the data recently, something that's very different between Vegas and the rest of the country, or at least most of the country, is most of the country's inventory over the last 6 to 8 weeks have gone down, and down
This is huge,
quite substantially, right? Like let's call it 20%, 25% down available listings. And at least based on our last discussion, Vegas had not seen that. It was quite the opposite.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, everything you read, there was an article this morning, I think it was in Business Insider, I think I sent you.
You did.
Yeah, everywhere. I mean, everyone's coming out in droves and buying homes, and the inventory has diminished. So, I mean, it becomes Econ 101, supply and demand. Low supply, high demand, prices increase. I'm not saying prices are necessarily going up, but I think it was Realtor.com or Zillow. That's who it was. They just came out and said, you know what, we're going to revise things. They thought prices were going to recede 2 to 3% next year. And they said, you know what, things are looking so good that we don't think prices are going to go down. It'll be either flat or up. Maybe they're right. Again,
they're not right. They're not right. It just can't be right. I mean, come on.
Well, again, you're predicating the future based on a little
data,
brief period of time. And again, you got to think human nature. I mean, think about it. If you've been starving for a month and I give you, a crappy burger that was half eaten, you're going to be like, wow, that was the best meal I've ever had because of what you had just gone through. So when you have people that have been quarantined for so long, obviously their initial behavior is going to be a little bit different than they normally would have. Yeah. So in Vegas specifically, like we discussed, while the rest of the country's seen inventory plummet, we're up about 45% since March 11th.
45%.
Yeah. So that's, I mean, again, if you're out there reading, Business Insider or the Wall Street Journal, and you're taking that advice as the gospel, it doesn't apply. It just simply doesn't apply. And people need to realize that you got to be careful when you read national articles, because real estate is regional. So even in Las Vegas, this part of Las Vegas is going to react differently than this part of Las Vegas.
Yes.
So the price range that you're in, the location that you're in, you got to be aware of blanket statements because they're not always indicative. And again, here, when our inventory has risen 45% since March 11th,
Yeah.
you can't say the same thing. And I'm watching, and I'm
Yeah.
seeing tons of homes just pulled off the market because they're not going to get what they're asking for. And I'm seeing tons of homes just sit and price reduction. Sure, homes are selling, but a lot of them are sitting. A lot of them are just pulling off because owners are realizing they're just not going to get what they want. They would be willing to sell at that price, but they're not going to drop their pants yet.
Yet. Underscore yet. Yeah.
And again, the big thing is we don't know how much worse unemployment is going to get. And I feel comfortable saying unemployment is going to get a lot worse. All the PPP incentives for all these businesses, those expire September 30th. So you got to look at this and go, Hertz just filed for bankruptcy.
Yes, they did.
And how many other of these restaurants are going to go bankrupt? How many retailers? I'm pretty sure Gap Brands is going to be in trouble. Mm-hmm. So on a national level, that affects everyone. And Lord knows Vegas doesn't need any more help with unemployment. And again, let's see what happens with these casino openings, because a lot of hotels and casinos have come out and just teased the fact that they aren't even planning on opening till the first of the year. This is the litmus test. Mm-hmm. And again, if you jump the gun on the litmus test and you go, hey, it's June 15th, we're looking pretty good, you might be overreacting to human behavior. Yeah. So it's going to be a little while before we know where we really stand.
Yeah. Yeah. This is all exciting stuff. Again, I'm going to be paying attention to Vegas all year, watching your updates, which I really appreciate. I'm just curious, anecdotally, have you seen any truly motivated sellers yet? And what I mean by that, what I saw in the MLS in 2010 was everything was capital letters: must sell, any offer accepted, right? All of that stuff. Have you seen any crazy listings where you're like, that seller is motivated yet?
I haven't seen anything egregious because, again, you got to remember, people are still kind of out there, and it's also early, right?
Yeah.
And people by nature tend to, you can look at it as being optimistic, or you can look at it as people just go into denial. So a lot of people are still going, oh, it'll be better. Oh, it'll just take some time. And you got to remember, you just referenced 2010, but the ish hit the fan in 2008. Exactly. So even what you're talking about, it took 2 years for people to get desperate. Right. And I think in this same scenario, that's why I've been saying for months now, we're not going to see the damage until 2021.
You're right.
Because I don't care what happens. People are going to overprice their homes. People are going to maybe get realistic on their homes. Then we're going to have the winter time. So everyone's going to say, well, your house isn't selling because it's the worst time of the year, but maybe it'll get better. And I see things coming to light in January, February of next year. And I think that's when you're really going to see things. There's always people that are going to be very motivated, but again, how motivated can you be when you're getting paid $4,000 a month from the government? If you can't make that work,
you got other problems.
You got management issues. And again, if you're a husband and wife, domestic partnership, you're clocking $8,000 a month. That's more than most people make, man, by far.
Yeah,
so again, how much desperation? Yeah, how much, if the government's paying you $96K a year as a husband and wife that, was working at a restaurant or at a casino?
Yeah.
Are you really desperate? No, you'd like to sell, but you're going to wait for the right price.
Yeah.
Again, it's going to be another world January 1st when you don't have unemployment money.
Yeah. Again, I love your advice. You're going to just have to keep reminding me. I want to see the cracks early. They're just not going to be there. Again, our summary of our last call is the first crack you'll see is slashing of the lot premiums, but that's probably months away. Maybe you see a little damage in the October, November timeframe, but you're right. You just keep telling me I'll eventually catch on. It's 2021.
Yeah. It's the 23rd today. So we got 8 days left, and then I'll be pulling the numbers for this month. I was almost going to pull the numbers to see where we're at. Cause we're 75% of the way through the month, but a lot of times you have late closings, which totally inflate the numbers from today.
Yep.
But this month is going to be a real interesting one, because this will be the first month that we can see the actual effects of COVID-19.
For
Because
sure.
last month's
'Cause
numbers, we
April,
talked
yeah.
about this last time,
Yeah.
April's numbers reflect what went into escrow in February and the beginning of March.
You're right.
So I don't care what last month. I mean, we were down
Exactly.
last month 32%, but
Yeah.
for the most part, those are people that canceled.
Yeah.
Let's see where we're at this month, and I'll know in 9 days what this month looks like. And
It's
this is
gonna
gonna
be
be the
good.
first truly indicative month, you know?
Very, very cool. Well, do me a favor, tease your video you're going to be putting together tonight so that we watch, and remind us of where your channel is.
Okay, so um, tonight I'm going to debut a video. I got a little bit more research to do, but one of the largest servicers in the United States just basically got busted for illegal practices. They completely violated the CARES Act, and what they did is going to affect millions and millions of homeowners, and it's going to affect a lot of people's credit. And I don't think, as of the filming of this, no one has picked up on the story. No one knows about this story unless you happen to be a homeowner who happened to pull your credit or get an alert. So I'm going to break this story tonight, and I would imagine sometime between tonight and Tuesday, you're going to start seeing this appear on the news. But in my opinion, it's a pretty big news. And if this affected me, I would be absolutely livid. And it's going to be interesting to see, you know, if a class action lawsuit comes out of this, because people will be affected by this to some degree or into some larger degrees. But I promise you, it's a pretty good one. It'll be a short 2-minute video. So again, go to Lebo Group on YouTube, smash that subscribe button, and you'll get the alert tonight when I upload it.
I will be looking forward to it. I will be watching it. I'm going to be one of the first people to watch it this evening. That much I know. All right, Bryan. Well, thank you very much for your time. Thanks for doing this, buddy.
Thank you, everyone. I appreciate your time. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe. Catch you on the next one.